and welcome to the Dynamic Duel Podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Johnny DC.
And I'm his twin brother, Marvelous Joe.
And in this episode, we are reviewing Shazam. I've seen it twice now, and I had a blast both times. I've been dying to talk about this movie for like the past 2 weeks. I went to the early screening.
It was pretty good. It definitely was not bad. I don't know if I liked it quite as much as you did, but we will definitely be talking about it later on this episode.
And I can't wait. Before that, we're going to break down the news, of which there's a lot of news items from this past week.
Yeah.
There's the Joker teaser trailer, the Avengers Endgame special look, some casting news regarding Suicide Squad, the Eternals, and Black Widow. Lots of surprises, so this is going to be a really fun episode.
Yeah, as always, you can go ahead and check out our episode description, check out the show notes, and you'll see the times for our segments so you can skip to whatever topic you want to hear about.
Right, but before we get into that, just a quick shout out to Shiftjid Bach Wiffled Fidnis Jivid Fidjid Jiv Bic Jid of iTunes, who gave us a really lovely, heartwarming review.
It's impossible to pronounce.
Right.
And thank you very much to all the other people who rated us this past week. We're up to 94
Almost
ratings
halfway
on iTunes. As you guys know, that we're looking to get to 200 ratings on Apple Podcasts and iTunes, because at that point we will be eligible to become critics on the Rotten Tomatoes platform and have our reviews for the Marvel and DC movies count toward the official tomato meter.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. Almost halfway there. It's going to be awesome. But with that out of the way, quick to the No Prize.
The No Prize is an award Marvel used to give out up until the 90s to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award that we post on social media that Jonathan personally draws for those who we feel gave the best answer to the question of the week. Last week's question was, who would you cast as Hercules, who is the rumored lead character in the Eternals film? As we discussed last week, the character of Hercules in the comics is a mainstay on the Avengers team. And while he's not really an Eternal, he's actually an Olympian. We suspect that if this rumor is true, that the MCU will be combining the races of the Olympians and the Eternals, given that the Eternals characters were worshipped as Greek deities in the comics.
And it's a way of doing it different from what DC is doing currently with Wonder Woman.
Right,
So
exactly.
So honorable mention goes to Bodo Winter, Kenneth McNeese Jr., and David Cholden, who gave the answer Dwayne Johnson.
Now, he's played Hercules before.
He has played Hercules before.
And he's going to be Black Adam on DC, so I'm not sure if this would work, but he definitely has the build for a character like Hercules.
Yeah.
Honorable mention goes to Jordan Sisk, who gave the answer Tom Hardy.
Right.
He's playing Venom right now, but I guess that Venom somewhat takes place outside of the MCU.
It's unclear.
It's unclear whether or not it does.
Honorable mention also goes to Joel Seagrave, who gave the answer Channing Tatum. He'd probably really have to bulk up.
Well, he could get pretty bulky as it is. The character of Hercules has always been more of like a comedic jokester one in the comics. Although he could be pretty badass, but he has a good sense of humor to him. He's real jovial. So I think Channing Tatum could pull off that aspect pretty well. Honorable mention also goes to Sir Patrick Hindsight, who gave the answer Jason Momoa. How do you feel about that?
What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you trying to do here? No.
He'd make a good Hercules.
He would.
A special shout out to Ken Johnson, who gave the answer of, I don't know how to pronounce this, Hapbor Julius Bjornsson, who plays the character of the Mountain in the show Game of Thrones.
The guy's massive.
He would be great. He's real formidable in that television show. I don't know how great of an actor he is. He is really good at like hacking and killing things.
Yeah.
But
that's Hercules,
but he does
right?
look the part. He does look the part for sure.
Yeah.
Dude's huge.
Matt Estes gave the answer Ryan Hurst. I think he's a character in The Walking Dead. I haven't been watching that show in a long time, since like season 3.
I haven't either, actually, but he plays a character named Beta in The Walking Dead. He has a long beard. He could probably pull it off. He actually really looks the part, and I can see him bulking up for this. He's a little bit older. He's like 42 years old. But I think you could get away with that with a character like Hercules.
Yeah.
Honorable mention goes to Adam Spees for the answer of Joe Manganiello, who was to play Deathstroke in the DC universe.
Right.
And he had that special cameo at the end of Justice League.
And who knows? Maybe he still will play that character.
Yeah, maybe. I like that answer, too. I think that's a pretty damn good one.
Honorable mention also goes to Eli Schwartz, who gave the answer Kit Harington from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, he plays Jon Snow.
Yeah, he's my man.
I could see him pulling that off, honestly. He'd have to bulk up.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah. Honorable mention also goes to Matthew Gonzalez, who gave the answer of Henry Cavill. And he cited that specific scene from Man of Steel when he comes out of the water and he's like, he has the full beard and he has the hairy chest and stuff, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Henry Cavill could really pull it off, especially if he's not playing Superman anymore.
Shut your mouth. Honorable mention also goes to Jacob Bell for giving the answer Garrett Hedlund from Tron Legacy.
I feel like he's a dream cast for a lot of different superhero roles.
His name comes up a few times.
Yeah.
And final honorable mention goes to Caleb Albers, who gave the answer Luke Evans or Sam Heughan. I don't know who Sam Heughan is, but I know Luke Evans. And if he did bulk up, he'd probably make a pretty good Hercules. He has the look.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Sam Heughan, he's an actor from the Starz series Outlander, which I've never seen. I mean, he has a good look to him, too. I could see him pulling that off. He's a little bit on the small side, so he'd definitely have to bulk up. Same with Luke Evans. But the winners of this week's No Prize are John Spees and Jeremy Orr for their answer of Gerard Butler.
Have you seen 300? Have you seen 300? He would be perfect.
When they mentioned his name, I was like, that's it. That's got to be it. Because one, he has the star power. I mean, he's not so much of a star anymore that you could still probably get him for cheap. But considering that he was once a big name, I think you could draw in a big audience for a character like Hercules.
Yeah.
And he just has the face for it, too.
He totally has the face for it. Totally has the beard.
Yeah.
Totally has like the stature. It's perfect.
Yeah, I'd really like to see him get that role. So yeah, congrats to John Spees and Jeremy Orr. I think Jonathan will be drawing Shazam for this week's No Prize.
Yeah, I'll be drawing Shazam.
Cool. So if you, the listeners, want Jonathan to draw a superhero for you, go ahead and stay tuned to later on this episode when we will be asking another question of the week, and you can win that No Prize. Now that that's done,
on to the news. So early last week, the Joker director Todd Phillips released the first poster of the Joker film, which really set the tone, I think, for the trailer that was released the next day.
Well, yeah, the poster was a still taken from a scene that was in the trailer.
Right, it's just the Joker like leaning back in this sort of like glass-eyed dance. It's really weird, really haunting.
Yeah.
It got me really excited for the trailer, and the trailer did not disappoint. It was a perfect trailer.
I think it surprised a lot of people.
Oh my gosh, I cannot count how many times on Twitter I saw people say something like, oh wow, this Joker movie looks really good. It looks nothing like Suicide Squad.
I heard a lot of people also say like, oh, this is like completely different than what I thought it was going to be. It doesn't look like it's going to be bad.
Why would they think it would be bad? Come on, you people are killing me. No, this is exactly what I thought it would be and what I was hoping it would be. Just like this really like dark kind of character study. Like they kept comparing it to Taxi Driver, and this is like exactly that.
It is almost derivative of Taxi Driver, I think. But Todd Phillips, I've had the utmost faith in because he's really good at making these like quirky crime thrillers with like War Dogs and even the third Hangover movie, which I thought was pretty hardcore.
This is totally like Martin Scorsese, who was rumored to direct this film for a while.
That's right.
I think he still might be producing it. I'm not sure about that. But, you know, the trailer starts off with Joaquin Phoenix's Arthur Fleck character speaking, I think, to some kind of like psychiatrist. He's clearly not happy, but he, you know, fakes a smile.
Yeah.
Which I think is a great way to set up this whole trailer about this guy who's really just down on his luck, and he's just like sort of forced to bear it.
It was a great bit of acting that once you saw, you knew that you were going to be in for something special with his performance here.
Yeah, absolutely. His life looks like it's a tragedy. You know, he's having to like bathe his mother, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Like, I'm not sure how many of us like down the line will have to bathe our parents. I'm sure quite a lot of us.
She doesn't look nearly old enough to be at that point yet.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Not bathe herself,
unless she has like dementia or something like that.
Oh, yeah,
that'd be
maybe.
pretty sad. You know, and just like how slow she's moving and reacting, and you know, I kind of get that vibe that there's something off with her.
There's something off with him too. He definitely has a mental illness, according to what he's writing in his journal, where he says like the worst thing about having a mental illness is that people expect you to behave as if you don't, or something like that.
Right. It's powerful psychological stuff. It definitely hits at a guy who is, you know, circling the drain. You know, especially when society just continually beats him up. You know, whether it's the kids who steal his sign when he's like dancing around in the clown outfit with the sign, or it's like the yuppies in the subway train.
Kicking the shit out of him?
Yeah, it's sad. It's really sad.
It makes you feel for him. You kind of see how he became the man that he becomes in the comics.
Yeah, I love the line in the trailer when he's like, is it just me or is the world becoming like crazier? And during that scene, he's like tearing something. You can't see like what's in front of him, but his like skeletal structure, he like lost a ton of weight for this
He's
film.
pretty emaciated.
It's kind of sad. Gotham looks so like dirty and like grimy, and there's like piles of trash everywhere. It looks very much like 70s New York. Again, like right out of Taxi Driver.
Although I think the film actually takes place during the 80s.
Yeah, I think it takes place in 81, I think they said.
Okay.
We get our first look at Arkham Asylum, or I guess they're calling it the Arkham State Hospital. Maybe it becomes an asylum later on. But that scene with him in the elevator with that guy who's just like thrashing around, like I think it's really good juxtaposition. You almost wonder if like Arthur Fleck is like feeling that same emotion like inside. He just, has to contain it.
Well, he just feels really uncomfortable being next to that guy, I think.
Right.
I'm wondering why he's actually in Arkham, whether he's going to an appointment for himself or if he's visiting his mother or something like that.
Or maybe he's visiting this guy. I don't know who the character is. I don't know if that's a nurse or like some kind of inmate of the asylum or something like that.
He's the guy that did the voice for Jefferson Davis, Miles Morales' dad, in Into the Spider-Verse.
Right. But you could just see how like uncomfortable Arthur Fleck makes other people. Just in like how they respond to him and look at him and react to him. You can see how awkward he is just in society. That laugh he gives while he's in the comedy club. It's like such an effortless Joker laugh.
Well, the laugh itself is pretty interesting because you can tell he's listening to the show and he knows he's supposed to laugh.
Right.
But it's such like a forced laugh. You can tell that he's just trying.
Like he doesn't know how to laugh.
Exactly.
Like so that's the laugh of someone who's just is so completely socially inept that like they don't know how to laugh.
Right. He wants to, but he doesn't know how to, at least how to naturally.
Yeah, you can totally tell like he just wants to smile, he just wants to laugh. He's even like forcing himself to do a smile in the scene right after this. There's like a tear running down his cheek. That moment I think is the most powerful moment in this trailer.
Yeah,
when
definitely.
he's like pulling up his lips with his fingers. It's scary in a way.
Yeah, a guy who can't feel the emotions he wants to.
Right. One of my favorite parts of the trailer actually is the music that's going on in the background.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, the smile.
Yeah, it's the version done by Jimmy Durante, and it just fits so well with this trailer. Like when he's running through that tunnel and the music just swells.
Yeah.
It's like feels like this huge operatic like tragedy that you're just experiencing. It really cuts to like your emotional core.
One of the great things that this trailer has done is present itself as a real artsy piece of cinema. I think you can like point out the mise en scène within the composition of the frame, and there's just great cinematography that makes it look real old school.
Yeah. We get to hear Thomas Wayne, I think it's Thomas Wayne speaking, just talking about how this person did this horrible thing and how they're a coward and how only someone who hid behind a mask would do something like that. And I love that line because we've seen behind the scenes shots of the Joker like wearing a clown mask, And of course there's dramatic irony in the fact that Thomas Wayne's son would later on wear a mask.
Right, as Batman.
Right. The scene where he's like peeking over the hedges and like opening, a lot of people are assuming Bruce Wayne's mouth. Like that is so sinister. We get to see Robert De Niro just like for the quick turn. We're still not sure who his character is. It's rumored that he is a talk show host. And
yeah, it looks like a Johnny Carson type.
Exactly. Character. It even has the Johnny Carson like curtain in the background. It's rumored that Arthur Fleck has been like trying to get on his show to do like his stand-up bit.
Do you think it's a little too spot on the nose that a film that is evoking Taxi Driver so much casts Robert De Niro in a part?
Well, I think a lot of people have been saying that even more than Taxi Driver, this film evokes the king of comedy, which was a Scorsese film in the early 80s starring Robert De Niro, which has the same kind of story about this failed comedian who's trying to make it, and it gets really dark and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, it's a little on the nose, but, I think
it makes it feel more like what it should be, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's that film for a new generation, maybe.
Okay.
I don't think it's trying to be something original by any means. That doesn't mean it's not going to be good. That doesn't mean it's not going to be powerful.
It's been a while since a film like this has been to mainstream theaters, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I guess one last thing to touch on in this trailer is that you really get a sense of like the evolution of Arthur Fleck. He starts off like really down on his luck at the beginning of the trailer, just like hunched over. But by the end, he's like the Joker and he's like dancing and it seems like he's really found himself.
And walking with confidence.
Right.
Do you think this trailer maybe showed too much of the movie, considering that the film doesn't even come out until October?
No, I don't think that at all. Like we don't know who most of these characters are. Like we know the mother, and that's probably it. What this trailer gives us, I think, is a tone for the film, and not too much more. We don't know anything about the story. We don't know, again, anything else really. So no, I don't think it showed too much at all.
Good, yeah, because I really don't want to be spoiled on this film.
No, I want to go into this film as fresh as possible.
I almost don't need any more marketing than this. It's just too bad that they're releasing something this great this early.
Well, I imagine we'll probably only get one more trailer
in a few months.
During Comic-Con, I bet.
Yeah, probably.
and maybe like another like quick, maybe small trailer right before the release.
Yeah. Do you think this performance will beat out Heath Ledger's as the greatest Joker performance of all time?
Oh, geez. His performance reminds me a lot of Heath Ledger's performance. So much so that even if he does, I guess, outact Heath Ledger and give a better performance, I think ultimately it's still really Heath Ledger's performance because he's borrowing so much from it.
Perhaps. Yeah, I will say that a lot of what I saw here did remind me of Heath Ledger. So it may be referred to as derivative come like, say, award season or something like that. But it's surprising that a lot of people are already like talking about award season for this film just based off of this trailer.
Absolutely. It's amazing. Like, this role looks like an actor's dream.
Yeah.
Like, Joaquin Phoenix is just acting the shit out of it. It's insane. It looks like it's going to be like a tour de force. Yeah. And I would not be surprised if he received some kind of accolades, maybe an Academy Award nomination for this role. It's way too early to tell, just based on this trailer, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Nor would I, honestly.
I think this is going to be really something special. And I think this is the closest that DC has this year to really making an impact in award season for next year.
All right, moving on to a completely different movie in terms of tone, although Endgame does look dark. We got a special look, like minute-long trailer for the film last week, the same day that tickets went on sale.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about you listeners, but I was so fucking pissed that morning. It took me so damn long to get my tickets. It took over an hour. Like, I joined the queue to like wait in line to buy tickets,
right?
The online queue, and they were like, "Oh, you have an hour wait time." I'm like, "What the fuck?" And then like all of a sudden the thing just froze. The queue just froze. They're like, "The queue has stopped. We're sorry." And I'm like, "No." And so like I was like about ready to toss my computer through the window. I was getting on my phone. I had like multiple tabs open. I got onto the Alamo Drafthouse website. I got onto AMC's website. I got onto Fandango. I was just furiously trying to get these tickets.
Meanwhile, I was like, "Oh, I have my tickets now."
Yeah, fuck you. That was bullshit. I have no idea how that happened. But eventually I did get 2 pairs of tickets for opening weekend, a showing on Thursday and a showing on Sunday. So I'm super glad about that. Can't wait to see the movie. But that was just kind of fucking ridiculous.
It was.
I had no idea that the demand for this movie would be so high opening day, you know?
Oh, yeah. It set the record in like 6 hours.
Yeah, which is nuts. It's nuts. Yeah, apparently everybody and their mom are going to go see this movie opening weekend, and like tickets are already being resold on eBay for like hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're actually going, but they're being auctioned off at that price.
And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if theaters would show anything but this, like during that opening day.
Yeah, with demand as high as it is, theaters have got to be putting that movie on more screens.
Oh, yeah.
So if you haven't gotten tickets yet, just keep looking is all I would recommend. But as far as the trailer itself goes, it shows like the original Avengers and War Machine and Captain Marvel sitting around talking about going to take the fight to Thanos.
Yeah.
And we get some touching moments like between Rocket Raccoon and Nebula, who I guess Rocket probably just figures out that his whole team died and he's probably pretty sad.
Yeah.
We get kind of like a spoilerish shot where we see Tony Stark embracing Pepper Potts, so we know that he gets back okay.
Yeah, the dude looks like pretty rough.
Yeah, so like my theory before where I said that it's possible that Pepper Potts may go out to rescue Tony Stark as the character rescue.
Right.
It looks like that's definitely not going to happen because their reunion is definitely on Earth.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that shot from the previous trailer where like Cap and Black Widow and everybody, they're like looking up at the night sky. I think they're seeing Tony Stark return back to Earth.
We do get to see his new Iron Man outfit, which is kind of cool. Like it looks more classic than it has lately. Like he has like gold shoulders.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I wonder if it's going to be nanotech like the last one was.
Probably. We probably wouldn't want to see him downgrade when it comes to his tech.
Right. There's a cool little moment between Tony Stark and Captain America, and he's like, "Do you trust me?" And he's like, "I do." And they like shake hands. The band's back together.
They forgave each other.
What a great moment. It looks like they take off into space with Captain Marvel as the pilot of the Benatar. It is cool to see Captain Marvel take on somewhat of like a leadership role in that regard where she's piloting the ship, you know?
Yeah.
We get this voiceover from Thanos where he's like, "You couldn't live with your own failure, and where did that bring you? Back to me."
That shot of him is really cool.
Where he's teleporting through the Tesseract?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. My favorite shot of the entire trailer, though, is right after that, where it shows the back of the big 3 Avengers, Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, and they're walking toward Thanos in the distance. That is so cool. That is just going to be such a phenomenal moment. I can't wait. It's going to be so cool. There's still so much we haven't seen from this movie. Still so much we don't know.
It's like an over 3-hour movie.
Exactly. I'm so glad that still at this point, I only have a faint idea of what's going to happen during this movie.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so excited for it. And yeah, it comes out in just a few weeks.
That's insane.
Which is insane. My body can't take it.
My body is ready. My body will be ready because I'm going to take a piss before the movie. So I'll be good to go.
Yeah, make sure you take a onesie and a twosie before this movie because, you know, you don't want to miss any part of it.
Right.
But yeah, that does it pretty much for that trailer. Overall, like, it was a good trailer. It showed us a little bit more of the movie. Wasn't really necessary, but it definitely built the hype, and I think it was a huge contributing factor to that opening day sales.
I think it was necessary. This is the only trailer that's really sold me on the film.
What?
Honestly.
Fuck you. You know what you're talking about. All right, let's get on to casting news with Suicide Squad.
Yeah, so Suicide Squad, huge news. I'm so confused right now. Warner Brothers has been saying, like, they're not really focusing on establishing any kind of cinematic universe. They're just focusing on, like, one-off films and not working on building sequels, really, in any way.
Right, we all thought James Gunn's Suicide Squad movie was going to be a reboot.
Right, and that's what everyone was saying it was going to be. But now, Idris Elba is not going to be playing Deadshot, sort of out of respect to Will Smith.
Right. Was he ever going to be playing Deadshot, or was that just assumed?
Both scenarios were in play when he did the initial talks to join the film.
Okay.
Apparently, he had one talk with James Gunn and decided to sign up, whether he was going to play Deadshot or someone new.
Okay.
I'm not sure why they announced this so late, that he's not going to be Deadshot. Like, why announce earlier on that he was going to be this character? They're still making decisions, like big story decisions.
Right, this would affect the script.
Absolutely. Because it was rumored early on that James Gunn's script needed Deadshot because it borrowed so heavily from John Ostrander's Suicide Squad run, which really developed the character of Deadshot.
Right.
So now we have no idea who Idris Elba is going to play.
But we do know that Margot Robbie is going to return as Harley Quinn after she shoots Birds of Prey.
Yes. And Viola Davis is back as Amanda Waller.
That's the big one.
That is the best news. She was so perfect as Amanda Waller. Like, the film wasn't great, but she is Amanda Waller.
Yeah.
So much so that sometimes I accidentally call Viola Davis Amanda Waller. Also returning is Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang, which I'm actually happy about because I thought he did a pretty decent job as Captain Boomerang. Like, the character was written horribly, but I thought he was interesting enough as the character. He was a shitbag, and that's what you want the character to be. So if he could return and be a shitbag, just do a little bit more, be a little bit more involved with the team.
And actually do something.
Exactly. Contribute in some fashion. Then yes, this is good news. And really, ultimately, this sets up a possible return for Will Smith as Deadshot. You know, which was just fantastic because we know that they didn't part like over creative differences or anything. It was
scheduling.
Scheduling, that's what they said.
Right. So how do you feel about it being a sequel as opposed to a reboot?
Well, that's a good question. I am happy that they're not trying to reboot something. I am concerned about how the public will respond to this, however. I think...
Well, the first film made so much money. It made like $750 million, even though it wasn't a great film.
Well, yeah, it was a total box office success, you know, which is probably why they're making a sequel. They wouldn't be making a sequel if it wasn't a success, right? Harley Quinn is just too marketable of a character, you know? So I'm not surprised that, you know, she's returning for this. We don't know what the story is yet. It is rumored right now that James Gunn has made the antagonist this huge alien, like hulkish woman. And I have no idea who that could be. Unless it's like Big Barda from Apocalypse or something like that. But she's not a villain.
Interesting. Yeah, but if they wanted to continue building on their universe, they could definitely set her up as, you know, Darkseid's bodyguard and then have her turn later on in like a different movie like New Gods or something like that.
Oh, geez, Suicide Squad versus Apocalypse? That would be insane. I don't know if that would work. That would be crazy. It depends on who Idris Elba's playing, maybe, to see if they have the firepower to do that.
Yeah.
This is all really exciting news. Can't wait to find out who Idris Elba is going to play. And that brings us to our question of the week. What character do you think Idris Elba will end up playing in the Suicide Squad sequel?
Post your answer to our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or email us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com. We'll pick our favorite answer and draw that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to social media. But on the topic of casting news, we got some interesting tidbits about the Eternals film and the upcoming Black Widow film.
Right.
Kumail Nanjiani has been cast in the Eternals movie alongside Angelina Jolie. We don't know who he's going to be playing yet, if he's going to be playing an Eternal character or somebody else. But I think it's pretty inspired casting. I love the actor. The Big Sick was a fantastic movie.
Oh, it's hilarious.
And he's a really funny comedian, too.
Yeah. Watch him be Hercules.
I mean, that could work, possibly. You never know. He could be Icarus.
The dude would have to get on some serious steroids.
Yeah, he's going to have to bulk
right
up
away.
big time if he's going to be playing one of those characters. Or maybe he'll be Mercury, the speedster, or something like that, one of the smaller guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's great news, especially coming off the great casting that is Angelina Jolie, who's, again, is rumored to be playing Cersei, which is pretty spot on, I think. In regards to the Black Widow film, they got 3 pieces of casting within these past few weeks, which is David Harbour, who is currently about to play Hellboy in that reboot. And he's also in Stranger Things. He's a great actor.
Yeah.
Rachel Weisz, who is in the Constantine film, and she was recently nominated for an Academy Award with her role in The Favorite.
Yeah.
And the last one, I don't actually know who she is. Her name is Florence Pugh. I guess she is in a show called Fighting with My Family. But she's young. She's like a 23-year-old actress. And my guess is that she's going to be playing Yelena Belova, who's like a young new hotshot of the Black Widow program that kind of tries to like upstage Natasha Romanoff. So she and Scarlett Johansson may be playing like rival characters within this film.
I'm just really waiting for the announcement that Julie Delpy is going to be in this film.
Well, she should be, because she was in Age of Ultron.
She absolutely should be. And they haven't said anything about her yet.
Yeah, I'm sure she will be, especially considering that the film is rumored to be a prequel showing the Black Widow's early days.
Right.
So excited about that casting news. Can't wait to hear more and see who these actors are actually going to be playing for sure. It's an exciting time with all these new films about to start production. But I think that does it for all the news. So let's go ahead and dive into our review of the movie Shazam.
Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, I've seen Shazam twice now in theaters, and I had so much fun each time seeing it. If you haven't seen the film yet, go ahead and hit pause. This review will still be here after you've seen it. Trust me, you'll want to. It's a blast. There are quite a few surprises to be had in the film.
I definitely recommend the movie. Definitely check it out before you listen to this review, because we will be getting into spoiler territory here, as with all of our reviews.
Yeah. The film is, I dare say, more fun than any Superman movie that's ever been made.
Superman movie?
Yes, which is maybe not a fair comparison, but people have compared the two characters for years. Like, DC bought the character of Shazam from Fawcett Comics because he was so comparable to Superman. But the similarities really are just like surface level. Because Shazam's alter ego, Billy Batson, is so different from Clark Kent. I think you could do a lot more with the character of Billy, and I think that idea is strongly supported by this film.
Yeah, they have completely different personalities, and the power sets feel different enough that this didn't feel so much like a Superman movie.
Right.
As
right.
I was kind of afraid that it might.
I was worried about the same thing. When you try and put Superman in a new genre like science fiction, people hate it, like Man of Steel. But this film, Shazam, exists across like a pretty broad spectrum of genre. And in my opinion, it's all the more fun for it.
It's a comedy.
It's part comedy, it's part fantasy, part action, it dabbles in horror, but ultimately, it's a coming-of-age film, which is unique for the superhero genre, and especially for DC films. You know, like Marvel has Into the Spider-Verse. Its main character, Miles Morales, is a teenager. You know, coming-of-age is a genre that, like, sort of requires a teen protagonist, like Spider-Man.
Yeah, I would definitely compare this movie to Spider-Verse. Now, I think Spider-Verse was done a lot more stylistically, but I think it hit a lot of the same emotional chords as well as just excitement.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I think I definitely caught on to that. That's my second viewing. It just reminded me so much of the same, like, beats that Into the Spider-Verse had. You know, and while DC has their own pantheon of teenage heroes, the character of Shazam has always been unique in that he's a young boy whose superpower is to become a powerful man.
Yeah, I think I would have loved this movie so much if I saw it as a child.
Oh my gosh, my daughters.
This would be my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I enjoyed it as an adult, but just walking out of the theater, like, just imagining myself getting hit with lightning and becoming, you know, an adult man.
Right.
And all that comes with, you know?
Yeah.
I would have just been on cloud nine.
And what I really like about this film, too, is that Shazam isn't the only one who becomes a superhero.
Right.
Like, his foster family, all of them. So there's someone, like, anyone can relate to.
Yeah, because it ran the gamut in terms of diversity.
Exactly. So I think this film did wonders for all the kids out there who saw it. I know there were a lot of kids in the theater when I saw it because, you know, I think a lot of people recognize this as a family film.
And it is.
They all walked out of the theater saying, I think this is like the best movie I've ever seen.
Who said that?
Some kids.
Oh. They're young.
My daughters really loved it. They're still going like, hands, lightning with my hands, lightning with my hands. And I'm doing it with him, and it's just fun. It's just fun all around, you know. But, you know, I think it's a good movie for kids. Surprisingly, it's dark, but I think it's still good for them. I think the most prevalent theme in this film is maturity. You know, in the opening scene of the film, Mr. Savannah, played by John Glover, which it's cool that he gets to play the father of both Dr. Savannah and Lex Luthor.
Right, and he also played the creator of Bane in Batman and Robin.
Yes, yeah, he's all over DC Comics. Big DC Comics fan, apparently. But, you know, Mr. Savannah early in the film tells his son Thaddeus that a real man doesn't need to go to others to solve their problems. You know, Thaddeus, his older brother, had taken his magic 8-ball.
Right.
It's this macho mentality that Billy shares later on for different reasons, but he tells Mary that, you know, family is for those who can't help themselves. He thinks that what's best for him and the way in which you be an adult is to be on your own. Right. He abandons Freddie at the school, saying that, you know, he's essentially an adult now, doesn't need school. But by the end of that very same day, he learns that he can't solve his problem alone. He can't only depend on himself, right?
Right.
It's like what they say in finance, like don't put all of your eggs in one basket.
Diversifying.
Exactly. Relying on yourself alone is like putting all of your eggs in one basket. It's an imperfect solution because no one's perfect. And right, Billy has to diversify, and that's what he does. He diversifies his power amongst his diverse foster family.
Yeah, it's really good themes, especially for a movie like this, and it works particularly well here for the origin story of Shazam.
Oh, absolutely. He's always been a character that's been centered around family. You know, there's always been like the Captain Marvel family.
Uh-huh.
I don't think we've mentioned the name Captain Marvel yet. If you're not familiar with Shazam, his original name was Captain Marvel.
Yeah, that's a whole thing.
Don't get confused. Don't get confused.
But also discovering oneself, when you're coming of age, you're learning who you are. So Billy is learning who he is growing into a man, being a teenager of adolescence. And he's also this superhero who's learning about his powers. So there's these like parallel themes running alongside each other that just meld so well together that I'm really surprised that this movie hasn't been made earlier, honestly.
I mean, you could say that like this borrowed pretty heavily from like films like Big.
Yeah.
Or you know, it feels very classic. It feels like an 80s film for some reason. Mm-hmm. And I think a part of it is because of it's a family film that has like dark themes in a way, like Gremlins or something like that, or The Goonies. This reminded me a lot of those films. But it's wholesome. And I think a lot of that has to do with the major familial theme of it. Like more specifically, it's the family you choose that counts. We see in the opening scene, again, how alone Thaddeus is. His father and his brother reject him. He has no ties to his family. And we see that in how easy it is for him to kill them later on in that boardroom scene,
right,
which was crazy.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later for sure.
Yeah. You know, Billy, he's also rejected and alone. But in the case of the latter, it's by choice. He chooses to be alone. Dr. Savannah learns the whole, like, strength in numbers lesson early on and makes the choice to adopt a new family of sorts, the 7 deadly sins. And it's not until later in the film, after Billy learns the truth about his mom, how she abandoned him, and that notion of this real family that he'd been searching for his whole life flips. And he realizes that finding people in this world that care about you is something special and sacred.
And that's who your family is.
Right. That's something that should not be taken for granted. Right?
Definitely.
You're right, the film has great themes. It's pretty inspiring. Like, as inspiring as a great superhero movie should be, especially for DC Comics, whose characters are meant to be like these larger-than-life aspirational characters.
Yeah.
You know, as I mentioned earlier, I saw the film twice with my daughters. I usually see these films twice before we review them, but this is the first time that I can remember that my daughters wanted to see it the second time. And I was happy to take them, mainly because of the film's strong family message. But that's not the only reason I like this film. The cinematography is great. The story, for the most part, doesn't get bogged down. It touches on socially relevant issues like bullying, but the real standout element, I think, is the cast.
Yeah, it was a great cast, for sure.
Yeah, I've heard other critics say that like Zachary Levi was born for this role, and I might have to agree because he absolutely knocked this out of the park. Like, his portrayal is so genuinely, like, childlike and sincere that not only did you believe that he was Billy Batson in an adult body, but also that, like, this guy could be best friends with Jack Dylan Grazer's character, Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, I thought there was going to be a larger disconnect between the way Zachary Levi acted and the way Asher Angel acted, the guy who plays Billy Batson.
Yeah.
But they largely felt like the same person.
I was also worried about that, like, going into the film from, like, the trailers and stuff like that. And I have to say, going into this film, I didn't have the highest expectations, which is maybe why I liked this film as much as I did, was because it exceeded my expectations. One of the things I was worried about, like you mentioned, was were Asher Angel and Zachary Levi going to be able to act as the same character in a way? And I thought they did. I totally thought they did. It was something I was really paying attention to the second time I watched it.
Yeah.
Just really trying to see if I could see Asher Angel like in Zachary Levi's performance and vice versa, you know?
And you could.
It wasn't perfect, but you definitely could. Yeah. There were some really strong moments where you could definitely see the two actors like as the same character.
Yeah. The large majority of the film, Shazam is mostly just fucking around.
Right.
It's not until like pretty far along into the movie that he actually first meets Dr. Savannah and like the stakes of the film are set.
Yeah.
But it was nice to have a little bit of fun with the character before we got into the heavy stuff. And the movie felt long. Like it's not a long film, but there's so much that happens during the course of this movie in terms of character growth that it really wasn't too disappointed by the fact that it felt like we were spending a lot of time with Billy just fucking around.
Right, yeah. The third act feels really long because like from a certain point to the very end, it's like almost nonstop action. So it definitely feels like drawn out.
Yeah, from the moment that Billy jumps off the rooftop and yells Shazam.
Exactly, yeah. And as Shazam, like, you could see the innocence and shock on Zachary Levi's face when he learned, like, he was bulletproof. And you could see his, like, fragility and cowardice, like, when he's trying to run away from Dr. Savannah in the mall. You know? It was just a great, great performance.
Yeah, like the look of excitement on his face when he, like, punches through a pillar, or, like, how embarrassed he feels when he's walking out of a strip club or something like that. I fucking love that moment.
Yeah.
We're gonna need more money. I'm like, I know exactly what he's talking about.
That was a great scene.
They're very convincing.
That was hilarious. I was laughing so hard during this whole movie. I was just laughing like the entire time.
Like the humor was pretty wholesome. I mean, at least compared to a movie like Deadpool, but that's rated R, you know. So
I thought this was as funny as Deadpool. That's
really
probably controversial to say, but I thought it was. I was laughing just as much.
No, I think the jokes hit a lot harder in Deadpool, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, they're rated R jokes, but I think this made good use of the PG-13 rating, like the strip club scene.
That's true.
Yeah. So moving on to Asher Angel as Billy Batson. Again, Asher was the actor I was most concerned about based on the trailers leading up to the film. I was concerned he wasn't going to like quite match the charm of Zachary Levi, but he exceeded my expectations. Now, he wasn't as charismatic as Zachary Levi or as Jack Dylan Grazer, and that was, you know, pretty evident when Asher was acting alongside Jack Dylan Grazer. But, you know, he held his own, and he brought a lot of heart to the dramatic moments in the film, and those were probably my favorite scenes of his.
Yeah.
Like, you felt his heartbreak when his mom revealed that she abandoned him. And you felt his steadfast courage, you know, when he decided to protect his family and confront Dr. Savannah at the fair.
Yeah, he's a great actor. This is the first thing I've ever seen him in, but he probably has a great career ahead of him.
Yeah, yeah. As does Jack Dylan Grazer, who played Freddie Freeman.
He stole the show.
Oh, absolutely. I was a pretty big fan of his performance in it. So, you know, I was excited when I heard that he was cast in this film. I knew he was going to nail it, and he totally did. Like, the angle they used for the character of him being an obsessed superhero nerd made so much sense for the character. Like, this handicapped teenager who just feels so powerless and invisible and who hides his insecurity in humor that makes everyone just as uncomfortable, you know?
I mean, it was a little bit too on the nose when he stated in the movie, like, his whole reason for being the way he is and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, like when he says, like, no shit, he wishes it was him.
Yeah. But he brought so much humor and heart to this film. I loved every single moment that he was in.
He had such a likable personality, like, throughout the whole film, despite getting bullied. You know, he had a really good, like, attitude. By the time he became Captain Marvel Jr. at the end, I was cheering, you know?
Is that his name in this movie? Or is it like Shazam Jr.?
I guess it should be Shazam Jr. That's weird. I don't think he would approve of that name. And I love the fact that Adam Brody was cast as the older Freddie Freeman.
That was fucking spot on.
Exactly.
Holy
Not
crap.
only like is he a dead ringer for Jack Dylan Grazer, but he was also once cast as the Flash in the canceled Justice League Mortal film.
Yeah. As far as the mannerisms go, Adam Brody nailed it. I had no idea that guy was such a good actor. I haven't really seen him in too much, honestly.
Yeah, like I know he was in the OC, but I have like no idea what else he was in. And I guess also, like, the guy who plays the older Pedro, that's DJ Cotrona, and he was cast as Superman in the Justice League Mortal film.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they got two actors from that film to play the Shazam family. I thought that was a cool Easter egg. Really cool.
Yeah. I like all of those adult actors, especially Megan Good.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. As Darla?
Yeah.
And Darla herself, like the young child actress, she was
Adorable.
so adorable. Oh, my gosh. So cute.
Not even real. She was like a cartoon character. But Megan Good's performance as a young child was pretty spot on. I totally believed it.
Oh, as an adult playing a young child?
Yes.
Yeah. I also like the guy who played the older version of Eugene Choi. He brought in like all the video game references like Hadouken and Fatality. And he was like, oh, I did that with my voice. I have the voice. I could do it.
That was pretty good. Yeah, and the lady who played Mary Marvel looked a lot like the young actress.
I was surprised she had such a small role.
Yeah, considering Mary Marvel has such a huge role in the comics.
Oh, I know. Like
in the Marvel family.
Oh, absolutely. You know,
the Shazam family. I keep calling. I don't know. I don't know what they call it in the comics anymore.
I guess the Shazam family now. But no, like this whole scene of all the foster siblings getting their powers was like straight from the comics, like straight from Jeff Johns' run in Justice League. It was so awesome to see in live action.
Did they divide up the powers in the comic book as well?
Yeah. Darla got speed. Eugene got like the lightning, and Pedro got the strength. Mary got the wisdom. That's something that they really couldn't showcase.
I was wondering about that because she like spent the whole time pretty much wrestling with the 7 deadly sins, but not really doing anything impressive.
No.
And Freddy got flight.
Yeah.
But who got like stamina and who got like the courage?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't think anyone got that in the comic.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Moving on to Mark Strong. Mark Strong is known for being a terrific villain actor, and he did a great job here. But I do have to say that what really made Dr. Sivana a compelling character was the opening scene in the film when he was a kid, and we get his origin. Like getting picked on by your father and then encountering this fantastical test where you have to prove yourself only to be told that you're lacking.
Yeah.
It's believable that he dedicated his life to getting back to the Rock of Eternity and telling the wizard to essentially go fuck himself. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, he's been one of the most well-developed villain characters in a superhero movie in a long time, I think.
Yeah, he may be like the most well-developed villain character of any DC film.
Yeah, and I think that aspect gives this film a leg up on a lot of similar superhero movies like this.
Like Ant-Man or something.
Exactly. Or even Deadpool. You know, Deadpool had villain problems, even though it was a great-ass film. The movie didn't quite have, like, the threat that this one had.
And sort of like that empathetic relationship with the villain. Like understanding where they come from.
Right.
You know, just making them that much more relatable. And in a way, that elevates the material. Like, you could understand his initial reactions to Billy Shazam. Like, here was the so-called perfect man, pure of heart. And he came across as, like, a groveling coward. You know, it makes sense that he would want to take the power from Billy. Not just because the 7 deadly sins told him to, but because he saw Billy as unworthy.
Right.
You know, and he still wanted to be. The character came into full focus for me when I realized, along with Billy, that Sivana's sin was envy. You know, like, from the very beginning, he was always envious of who he wasn't and what he didn't have.
Yeah, that was pretty brilliant.
It was so well done, so well written. And it's something that, you know, like, I think it was even better than the comics because this storyline that this movie takes from in the comics, Black Adam was the villain.
Yeah.
Like, Sivana awakened Black Adam, but he didn't do too much more than that. And I'm really glad they decided to go with Sivana as the villain for this film.
Being powered by the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
Which, I'm not sure exactly what power set they gave him, but it was pretty cool. So he had, like, control of those creatures pretty much. He could fly, was strong, could shoot lightning. It seems like he had all the powers of Shazam plus some.
Yeah, it did seem that way. Like, he could shoot lightning, but it was like a different kind of lightning. It was like a dark black, blue lightning.
So I'm wondering why he wanted the power of Shazam if he already had all those powers already.
That is a fantastic question. Maybe it was just to prove something to himself that he was worthy of getting that specific power from the wizard.
Or maybe it would just like double his power levels or something like that.
Maybe. Yeah, who knows? That's actually a fantastic question. He really wasn't seeking it initially. You know, he killed the wizard, he had the power. It was the 7 deadly sins who told him to go and take out the wizard's champion. That way he would be the most powerful one. Because otherwise, if Shazam came to full power and full realization of his power, then he would be a threat to Sivana.
Okay. I'll accept that.
I think last but not least, the major character, who's not even a major character in this film, was the wizard, played by Jaimin Hansu.
Yeah, it was a small role.
I do think that Jaimin Hansu needs to make an appearance in every single DC film now and then just get killed off. Because he's done that for like how many films now?
Oh, he did it for Guardians. He did it for this movie. He did it for... Did he die in Constantine?
No, he didn't die in Constantine. He did die in Aquaman.
That's true.
Feel bad for the guy. I'm sure he'll be around in the Black Adam film and maybe the sequel. Who knows if Shazam is really dead? He never dies off in the comics. He always comes back. So yeah. I'm sure they'll find a way.
I love the gag where he was like, "Put your hands on my rod." And he was like, "Ew, gross."
Oh, man. So the first time I saw this film, like, the theater wasn't too crowded. I laughed entirely way too loud at that scene, and no one else did. I felt really embarrassed, but yeah, it was freaking hilarious. Let's talk about more jokes in the story highlights. The opening scene with young Thaddeus Savannah was a big surprise. And such a great setup, I think, for the dark, fantastical tone of the film.
Yeah.
The magical world that the story takes place in.
Yeah, you saw that the film really didn't pull any punches.
No.
And there was a pretty good jump scare there at the beginning when their car got hit by that truck.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And just like the Rock of Eternity and how cool that was. Like the moment I saw the magical glyphs pop on the Magic 8 Ball, I was like, oh shit, we're going to the Rock of Eternity. And that set was so badass. Like so many Easter eggs. It's like Odin's trophy room from the Thor movies. Like, I don't know what all of the objects were. Like the flaming cello? I don't know what that was. I'm hoping it was like the flame of Ptah or something like that. Who knows?
Huh.
But, some of them I recognized from the comic, like that golden mirror.
Yeah, Mr. Mind was there too.
Yeah, the standout, of course, was Mr. Mind, who, shows up again in the mid-credits scene. I really, really enjoyed exploring the Rock of Eternity later on when the kids were trying to escape Dr. Savannah. It was like so much world building. Those doors,
Yeah.
they really sold it as the nexus of the multiverse. I can't wait to do even more exploration of their new lair, in sequels, which have been greenlit. The sequel has been greenlit already.
Nice.
With the same writer and director.
That's great news.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it gets me super excited. I'm really happy with how this film is doing right now. Later on, once we're introduced to Billy, I love the line where he was like, "Dispatch, ignore that request. Some kid stole our walkie-talkies." And the person on the other line was like, "Walkie-talkies? How old are you?" And he's just like,
That was great.
It was such a great setup for Billy. The way he trapped the police officers. It just shows how resourceful he is as a character. That he's been on his own for a while, can handle his own. The flashback that they do where he gets lost as a kid was so heartbreaking.
That was sad. That was really sad, especially because you already kind of figure out what exactly happened there.
Right. And what kid doesn't remember getting lost? When they were that young, just looking around and just the sense of panic and dread that, oh crap, my mom isn't where I last saw her.
The camera work in that scene did a good job of recreating that feeling.
Yeah, it was really low to the ground. Really well done. After Billy meets his new family and stands up for Freddie Freeman when he gets bullied and he makes his way to the Rock of Eternity in the subway. I loved when the doors open and there's the Rock of Eternity and then he goes back to the subway map.
It's the stops.
Yeah, it's so subtle, but everyone in the theater was laughing both times I saw it.
Yeah.
It was just did I, what stop is this? One of the cool things about when he's meeting the wizard Shazam was how they gave Black Adam's history, and you could just see that it's The Rock. And you get that backstory of how he unleashed the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
It's that's the movie we're going to see next, and that is going to be badass. Once Billy does get his powers and he's experiencing them for the first time, they got the money from that lady who was getting mugged.
Yeah.
Who really didn't need saving. And she was like, I don't want to know what this is. Just take this money. I'm going to leave. But the convenience store scene was one of my favorite scenes in this film.
That was great from beginning to end. When he's first hiding from the muggers and he was like, oh yeah, I can, stand up to them. Then he gets shot. And then Freddy's like, you have bullet immunity. Or maybe it's just the suit. Shoot him in the face.
It's yeah, shoot me in the face. Wait, what? And it's just ping, 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 ping. It's ah! It's so dark, but so good. And then once he does throw them out the window and they sip the beer for the first time, exactly what I thought was going to happen from the trailers happened. And they just spit it out and he's this tastes like literal vomit. Just a great reaction. So funny. In terms of the villain, I think one of his most powerful scenes was the boardroom scene. This was crazy. This is where the film really earns its PG-13 rating. Aside from all the kids swearing.
When he straight up threw that dude through the window, my jaw dropped.
Yeah, I did not expect that.
That dialed up to 11 real quick.
It's where you realize the villain is no one to fuck around with.
Right, exactly. Just seeing the panic on that guy's face as he's falling to his death.
Right.
It was harrowing.
And seeing the people pressed up against the frosted glass on the other side, it was nightmarish.
Yeah, them getting ripped apart.
The design of the 7 deadly sins, they were different from what I thought they were going to be. They were very, very monstrous. And I thought they were really well done. And some spots I thought they were actually people in suits.
The character design kind of reminded me of something out of Resident Evil, especially the glutton sin, where his whole body was a mouth.
Yeah.
That was nuts.
That was crazy. That was insane. After this scene, Billy and Freddie are trying to get out of school, and Billy pretends to be the father of the two. And he's like, thank you very much, Officer Moron.
It's Moran.
I cracked up on that line too.
But that montage where they're testing his powers are my favorite moments from this entire movie, especially when they're trying to see if he has teleportation powers, but it turns into like a secret fire immunity test. That was so hilarious.
That went on a little bit too long for comfort. I was like, oh no, he's not fireproof. And that scene from the trailer where he's trying to jump over a building in a single bound, he just crashes. The whole audience just roared at that one. That was hilarious too. Oh my gosh, so funny. Later on, when he's like saving the bus full of people and he's like trying to sit down the bus and there's that dog that's in the way. That's another one that got a lot of laughs in theater. It's just like, move.
I still don't buy the physics behind that because how hard that bus crashed into his arms, people still would have gone flying down.
No, and he didn't even have like a good enough grasp. He didn't have a grasp of it at all. His palms were pressed up against it. When you have that much weight, like the center of gravity, I think it would almost make the bus like crack in half or something like that.
Right. All that weight focused just on his palms.
Exactly.
His hands would have gone through the glass.
Right. Skipping ahead a bit, like towards the end when they're in the fair and Billy realizes that he should share his power with his foster siblings and he's holding the staff and he's like, say my name. And they're all like, Billy!
I loved that. That was such a great moment.
It was so
an
innocent.
Easy gag,
yeah,
but so charming.
And of course, how that led just to them all getting superpowers. Again, I was just cheering when that happened. I was so excited. I figured it was going to happen.
Yeah. It was just a cool little moment when they first transform and there's smoke everywhere and you just see all their lightning bolt emblems.
Yeah.
Chills.
Absolutely.
And I think that the fight between Shazam and Savannah throughout the city was done really well. Like, that's how you do a powerful superhero smackdown in the city. Not like Man of Steel, where you have to go evoking, 9/11 imagery.
Yeah.
This made so much more sense.
I mean, Billy did crash through some buildings earlier on.
Yeah, but he didn't fucking tear him down like Zod did, or even how Superman did.
That's true. That's fair. I thought it was enjoyable. I didn't really think that the scene where he couldn't hear what Savannah was saying was as funny as everyone else thought it was. To me, that joke landed a little bit flat.
I thought it was pretty funny.
You did?
I thought it was pretty... I laughed.
I'm glad someone
It went
did.
on a little bit long, but
It
I was
did.
laughing the entire time, so...
It's just a reminder that Shazam doesn't have super hearing like Superman does, It was a very Deadpool moment. I don't know why it reminded me of that.
Because it's satirical of the genre like Deadpool was.
Right, yeah. When he finally does defeat Savannah and he absorbs all the 7 deadly sins back into Savannah's eye.
Yeah.
And he's just like, what? You could give me everything I ever wanted? And then the other members of the Shazam family are like, Billy. And he's just like, I'm just kidding. I gotcha. You really think I'd stick some demon ball in my eye? Gross. But it was a really important scene, I think, too, because it showed that he actually was the one that was pure of heart.
Yeah.
Earlier on,
he was able to resist temptation.
Yeah. He told the wizard Shazam that, there was no one who was really pure of heart. And Shazam basically said, you're all I have left.
Yeah.
It turns out that he chose correctly.
Yeah.
At the very end.
That was a great little moment that Billy had with the wizard at the beginning where he was completely honest. He was like, I'm not pure of heart.
And that's straight from the comics, too.
Really?
Yeah.
Good.
Before the credits, the film ends, in the cafeteria with Freddie Freeman sitting down. And then, all of his foster siblings, come sit around him. And sure enough, in walks Shazam. And he's like, this is my best friend in the whole wide world. Tell me everything I know about being a superhero. And then, of course, we get the Superman cameo.
Quote, cameo.
In quotes, yeah.
That was kind of cheap.
That made me mad.
Fucking Henry Cavill.
That made me actually pretty mad at Henry Cavill.
He could have elevated that whole moment right there.
He could have. It could have been so much more special.
Instead of being awkward, which is what it was, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Even Zachary Levi's face at that moment when he was kind of just hesitant looking over at Superman. Maybe in a different context, that would have been him being nervous about being in Superman's presence. But the way I read it, knowing the story of Henry Cavill and how he kind of dropped out of this film and stuff like that, it made Zachary Levi's performance seem more like an apology.
Yeah. It makes me really think that Henry Cavill is not returning as Superman because they have a CG version of his face. We saw it all over Justice League.
Yeah.
They could have easily just put in a CG version of Henry
Right.
Cavill and made it work.
Yeah.
I don't think he's coming back. If Warner Brothers is willing to let go of Will Smith and Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill has got to be shitting his pants right now.
Right.
Especially after the reception of Shazam. He's probably like, fuck, I should have done it.
Yeah, he absolutely should have done it. Yeah.
The mid-credits scene where we see Dr. Savannah in his cell trying to write all those magic symbols on the wall.
Yeah, I don't understand. He knows how to write those magic symbols. He knew what the symbols were because he wrote it on the door earlier on in the movie.
Right.
So did he just forget what the sequence was or something?
I was wondering the same exact thing. It's a good question.
Maybe he got his head hit too hard or something.
Sure, let's go with that. You know. But Mr. Mind, seeing Mr.
So
Mind
cartoonish.
was so fucking awesome.
Was it though?
His voice was fucking amazing. What are you talking about? That was awesome.
I thought it was a little bit too out there, maybe. Obviously, so Mr. Mind, he goes into the brains of others and controls them, right?
He can, but he could also just control people telepathically, not being inside them. He's a pretty interesting character. He's like a telepathic alien, and he's in his like larval stage, essentially. Like when he grows and becomes his full form, he like has complete control over like space and time.
Oh, wow.
And stuff like that. It's pretty insane. He's a pretty cool character. And it makes me really excited for what they could do with that later on. They definitely hinted at the other like 7 magical realms, which makes me think that in the next film, you know, Billy and his family, and probably Black Adam, because he's going to have his own film by this point, are going to be sitting on those thrones that are in the Council of Eternity, and like using the Rock of Eternity to like make their way to the other realms and stuff like that. It's going to be cool. This is a great setup, I think, for the next film.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a great story for a sequel, and how fantastic that sounds seems like a great way to compensate for the fact that by the time we get a sequel, the character of Shazam will be a lot more adept at using his powers. He won't be in that discovery period anymore.
Right.
Which was kind of a lot of what made this movie so great, was that whole discovery.
Yeah.
So putting him in some sort of fantastical situation such as that might make up for that.
You know, he's going to still be learning because now he's out of his element once again.
Right.
You know, and maybe like Black Adam will be his like new mentor or something like that. Maybe Black Adam got trapped in one of the 7 realms or something. Who knows?
Maybe.
I can't wait to see The Rock and Zachary Levi like in the same film, like a buddy film. That's going to be cool. Hopefully the kids like still look the same. It'll be a few years before I'm sure they start filming this, and who knows how much they'll grow.
Yeah. I mean, Black Adam is a real serious type of character. He doesn't really have a big sense of humor. So I'm wondering how he'll play off of a character like Zachary Levi. But The Rock, as an actor, does have good comedic timing as well. So he might be able to play with that a little bit.
In a way, I think that that's sort of a perfect match because they are such opposites. They'll be able to play off each other.
Yeah.
Hopefully. We'll see.
Given that Black Adam would be an anti-hero as opposed to a villain in that movie.
Exactly. There was one more scene at the very end of the credits. It was just another test. It was like lost test footage of when they were seeing what his powers were. And it's of Shazam. Did you see this scene?
No, I didn't.
Oh, man. So Shazam is like talking to a goldfish inside of their bedroom. And he's like, oh, you know, don't worry about it. Yeah, you know, as they say, there's plenty of other fish in the sea, is what I would be saying if I could actually talk to this fish. And you just see Freddie Freeman with his camera, and he's like, whatever. He's like, dude, this isn't even a cool superpower. What makes you think that this would be a cool superpower to have? And then, you know, Freddy, he's wearing his Aquaman shirt. He's like, I don't know, maybe you could command legions of fish in the ocean? He's pointing to his shirt. And then Shazam's like, oh, yeah. I don't know. Still not that cool, though. And then the film ends.
I wish I would have seen that.
Yeah,
I probably got to go see the movie again just to see that scene.
I guess you do. I'll probably see it again in theaters, you know, see it with our parents or something like that. I usually like to take them to the DC films, just, you know.
In an effort to make them love you.
Yeah. And just get them to love the things that I love, you know.
They're Marvel fans, whatever.
Who isn't? Fuck. But no, ultimately, like, I'm happy to see this film again in theaters. I'm happy to see it as many times as I'm able to. This is a really fun film, really warm-hearted film. And I think it works so well because it's all about wish fulfillment, you know?
Yeah.
And what kid who's watching a superhero film isn't watching it because of wish fulfillment?
Right. Well, I mean, comics are all about adolescent male power fantasies, so...
Right.
This fits right in line with that.
To the T. And I think because this brought out so much nostalgia and just so much joy from me as I was watching this, I have to give it 4.5 stars.
I was hesitant about that rating because I felt like it was a 4-star film. But, you know, on the scale of like Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, and Ant-Man, I think Shazam falls somewhere in between those two films. And I would give the first Guardians movie 4.5 stars, and we gave Ant-Man 4 stars when we reviewed that.
Yeah.
I think Shazam falls closer to the Guardians of the Galaxy. So I have no problem giving this movie 4.5 stars because it was so good at what it did. It was exactly what it wanted to be, I think. And what it did really well.
This is like the first time that we're getting a DC film that isn't tied into like a Snyder film that came previously.
Yeah.
You know? And who knows if the DC extended universe still exists or not. but I think this is sort of proving that whatever Warner Brothers is doing currently, it's working. It's working. So
Good.
yeah. That does it for our review. If you've seen the film, please let us know what you thought of it. Do you agree? Do you disagree with our star rating? Reach out to us on our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can email us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com. And you can find links to all of our social media profiles at dynamicduel.com.
Yeah, and on that website, you can also find a link to our merch store where you can get 15% off any Dynamic Duel memorabilia just by clicking the link that's on our site. So get yourself a Shazam t-shirt that Jonathan draws because I bet you it'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, now that everyone's going to love Shazam and be on the Shazam bandwagon, you can be like, I was there first. I was there first. Look at the shirt.
Please rate, review, share, and subscribe this show. Again, we're trying to get to 200 ratings on iTunes, so if you have an iTunes account, please rate us on there. That way we can have reviews like these count toward the tomato meter on Rotten Tomatoes.
Right, I think that does it for this episode. In our next episode, we will be doing a duel episode where we pit Hawk Girl versus Gamora. And this is all in lead up to our review of Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, it's like the ultimate female assassin against the ultimate female warrior.
Sold. You totally just sold me on it. Can't wait. But again, that does it for this episode. So without further ado, up and away.
True believers.